in the Pacific Northwest. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Zoom session. We have you on mute, so this is where it becomes very difficult for us doing this sort of training because I don't get a lot of feedback. I can see a few faces and that's about it. So that is the difficult part, and I keep rambling. So I'd just like to get to the slide here that says that Walter Knepp is the president of British Columbia Pickleball, BC Pickleball, and he's going to be our Zoom coordinator for today, and he's going to monitor the chat. And really thank Walter because, of course, he's done this now with me a number of times, and he must be getting a little nauseated at hearing me. But he is going to be instrumental in noting your questions and raising your hand. So Walter, do you just want to take a second? All right, so again, I'm going to be the one that's doing most of the talking, and I'm going to get in a roll, and I'm not going to be able to see if you how you're receiving what I'm giving. So again, please use that hands up or the chat function. What we always ask is try to hold your questions until the end of the section. Two things are true, and that is usually I will cover the question that you have at some point within what I'm saying. And the other is that, of course, if we keep on stopping to answer questions, it's going to take all afternoon. And so we like to hold the questions until the end if it's all possible. But there are some areas where we can't move forward unless I know everybody's on the right page and we're good to go. Like that. All right. So as I say, you know, when you're doing classroom training, it's completely different. You get to see the expressions and know what's going on. And here, again, not a lot of feedback. So we already covered that. So refereeing pickleball. Now let's get started. So what I like to say is this is a pretty simple game, and refereeing is easy, right? I think wrong. I always go to squash because I started my refereeing and umpiring career in squash, and you know, it was pretty demanding. But when you look at the two side by side, I don't think there's any comparison. Pickleball is quite a bit more difficult. You have so much more going on with 4 people in the court compared to the 2. And so it's a reality. It's just not easy because you have a lot of things that are happening. So just to make my point, Walter will probably cringe at this a little bit, because what we're trying to do in Canada is get people interested in becoming referees. And I am overwhelmed at the number that we, of course, had. We had over 100 when we first started this, and now it sort of shrunk down with people getting busy and doing things. I think maybe it should have been a rainy day out there. Nonetheless, I want to say that capacity to be a certified referee, not everyone out there has got that capability and the capacity to become a certified referee. It's a reality. But there are different levels. There's level 1, there's level 2. And you could be quite comfortable in there and going to tournaments at a level 2 and doing your refereeing duties and doing a fairly good job at it, no problem. As soon as you become certified, you're wearing that shirt, you're representing the organization, and there's a lot of pressure on you, more pressure, and you have to be on your top of your game each and every moment that you're out on that court because you're representing either the USAPA or PCO. So I want you to be objective about your capabilities. I want you to look at yourself. And a lot of times when I start on our conversation and we go down the path, people go, oh my God, I never realized there was so much to this. I'm never going to get it. And they throw their hands up. And I'm saying, well, we'll give it a moment, because what we're going to do is provide that training for you. We're going to break it down into details and bite-sized pieces. And I think we'll bring you along and show you that it is doable, but you have to put a lot into it. There's no doubt about it. There's an awful lot. You have to be dedicated. You have to be really into it to go along the whole process. the other issue that we have in British Columbia, quite frankly, is that there's not a lot of opportunity for you to practice that skill of refereeing. The best you can do is get out there with your friends and on a court and do some practice that way. There's no doubt that's the best. There's not a lot of tournaments that you're going to be able to get to and do it, unlike going to Arizona or Florida or wherever you might go as a snowbird or might have gone if the world isn't the way it is right now. There's a lot more opportunity. The other issue, of course, is understanding the rules. The rules are getting more complicated. So you have to be able to know the rules inside out, and you have to be able to recall them at a moment's notice on an on-court situation. And that's where I'll point out that the on-court quizzes, or the quizzes that are in the on the web are excellent because they put that on-court situation in front of you and you have to answer it. And by running that through your head, when you get out on the court, the same situation happens and you go, aha, this is the answer to that question that just happened in front of my eyes. And it does make it a lot easier. There's a good change there. So the other difficult part is that they're coming up with annual changes and amendments to the rules. Last year, I think we had 90 odd. And this year, the little birds tell me that it's going to be over 100 changes to the rules. And an awful lot of those are usually just administrative, changing words, making sure that they align with different paragraphs and one thing and another. But that's a lot of changes to the rules. And then if you've learned the rules 3 years ago, and now you've got all these changes to it, you have to erase the old changes, put in the new, and understand the new situation and how to act as a referee on the court. And that, again, becomes challenging. The best practices, you'll hear me speak about best practices. That's what this referee training is really all about. In the USAPA, they have the referee handbook. And in Canada, it's the referee, what is it, Walter? The guide, referee's guide, officiating guide?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is the Bible. When it says something in there and tells you how to do it, you have to follow that to the letter of the law. Absolutely. If you're going to go for certification and have evaluators evaluating you, that's what they're looking for, is that you're following it explicitly. You don't put the L. Thompson twist on it. You put not your own twist on it. You follow exactly what it's saying there at the time it says to do it. So again, it's not over your head. We're going to break it down and we're going to provide the training so that it is made easier for you. I will be pointing out, and when I went for training, I didn't have somebody doing what I'm doing, and that is that's been through the process and has the ability to now say, look, this is extremely important. You need to pay attention right here. You need to get this down and understand it completely. And that helped you all the way through the process. If we can break it down and do that, you'll know exactly what they're looking for and what you need to do. And of course, the last word in there is practice, practice, practice. Before I went for certification, I had done probably, I don't know, 700 matches at tournaments and on courts easily. And we still had issues. So the primary responsibilities, just to make my point, let's break down what the primary responsibilities are for a referee as soon as they hit that court. And I think probably you would have all got the first one. You keep and announce the score, the correct score, each and every time. What else is a prime responsibility? Track the correct server and recognize server and receiver positioning. Okay, so again, that's extremely important. You have to know where that band is. That's what we're going to teach you. You're not worrying about anything else. You're just watching the band that's on the first server band, and you make a note of what that person is wearing on your scorecard, which we'll get into a little later, and you just track that band. And when the score is even, you know that the server is serving from the right-hand court. If the receiver score is also even, we have the band over there, and that's everything is correct. We don't care about their partners because we're just tracking that band and knowing where that's at. My buttons aren't working here. The other function, of course, is to call the serve and non-volley zone faults. That's a very important part. I will be consistently talking about the non-volley zone is your area of main focus. Once the rally has started, you're not taking your eyes off of that. You do not track the ball. You track the players, and you track the players who have movement towards the non-volley zone more intently than anybody else. And that's where you keep your eyes focused, is on the players and their feet and that non-volley zone line. And of course, you have to be thinking, did the ball bounce or was that ball hit in the air? Maintain control and keep the match moving efficiently. Don't want to undersell that one. That's a very important one where your job is to make sure that the serving team dictates the pace of that match. And if they want to get going and the other people are dragging their feet and wanting to slow it down because they're losing, you have to be on your toes on that one and maybe speak to them about slowing the game down, how they're returning the balls. So you want to make sure that you're not part of the problem and you're able to get the score out and check that the right receiver and the right server are in the place, and you put that all into context out there. Of course, your next job is, of course, to recognize violations as they happen on the court and enforce the rules and resolve any disputes. We'll tell you how to deal with disputes and an unruly player, because they're out there, they happen. Rule on line calls, but only when requested by a player. Can anybody raise your hand? Who's going to be the first one to raise their hand and tell me an exception to that rule? Rule on line calls, but only when requested by players. But there is one exception to that rule. Anybody know what it is? Where's Rick Volk? I saw you walking back and forth there, Rick, so I thought I'd put you on the hot spot. Anybody? Walter, anybody raising their hand up there?
Don't see anybody up.
Go on. When can a referee make a line call without being requested by the players to intervene and make that call?
I got two hands up. Diana, what's your answer?
Diana, unmute and let us know.
When we're talking about the no volley zone line, the kitchen fault line?
No, we're talking about line calls. So we're talking about the extremities, the baseline and the sidelines. So if a ball is hit on that sideline or close to that sideline,
Mhm.
and the team calls it out, when does the referee usually has to wait and be asked by a team before that line call can be questioned. But that referee, there's one occasion when he doesn't have to wait to be asked. He can say what he saw.
And I don't know the answer.
When there's line judges?
Absolutely. And when the line judge what?
Doesn't make a call.
Nope.
Hasn't seen it.
Nope. Well, that now. So who's talking for me here?
Barry.
Barry, show me your signal as a line judge. Nope.
Oh, a line judge?
This one here.
Yeah.
That's right. Two hands over the eyes, indicating that line judge has been unsighted and he can't make the call. The referee can immediately say and make a line call on it. So there's a little bit of a test. So keep on your toes out there. Thanks, Barry. You have to track timeout situations and annotate those on the scorecard and know exactly when they happened, how many they have left, and make those announcements. Issue and track technical warnings and fouls as they happen. Of course, hopefully you won't have that too many of those in your career, but again, they do happen from time to time, and you have to know how to handle that. Pre-match briefing. I didn't want to get into this too much because I'm wanting to speed along and get, of course, right to the part where you're going to be doing the scorekeeping and annotating the scorecard and dealing with that. But let's just go through a little bit of this. And in red here, it is very important. I've seen a lot of referees go out on that court, and what do? They start talking when the people are warming up. And that's to, I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to not take up time from the players. But unfortunately, they don't have their undivided attention, And you need them to be paying attention because what you're saying is important. And if it's important, you need them to be all for them listening intently. So you do your introductions, you introduce yourself, you get the names, you check the scorecard as far as their names go. You check the paddles and you tell them that we're playing like 1 game to 15, win by 2, switching sides at 8, or we're playing best of 3 to 11 by 2, switching at 6 points. Review the line calling responsibilities. Yeah, you know, and this is changing the pre-match briefings because a lot of tournament directors now, what they're doing are sending instructions to the players beforehand. And all we're doing as referees and going out there and saying, you got the instructions beforehand. Are there any questions to those instructions? And if there are no questions, away we go. Determine end server, receiver, and or defer situation. Of course, this is your main function, and that's why I really wanted to include this slide, because that's what you need to do. As soon as you pick up your scorecard from the desk, the referee desk, you check the back of it and make sure there's a 1 or a 2 on there. All right, that is how you determine first server or first or side or receiver or whatever. So you make sure that's on there. You hide it. You get on the court. You pick somebody and say, Barry, give me a number, a 1 or a 2, please. And he'll say number 2. And you'll say, you show everybody the number. You show all 4 players being open and say, wrong, it's a 2. So you look at the other team and you say, would you like to serve, receive your side, or defer the call? And if they take the serve, you take an X, and I'll show you on the score sheet in a minute. You put an X down beside that name. And if it's best of 3 to 11, you can put it down in the 3rd game, because by default, the first server has it for the 1st game, and the other team will start to serve on the 2nd game. And if there is a 3rd game, of course, that same team will be serving again, the same team that started, if you followed that. Now, the other team has to pick side. So you ask them, what side do you want? Now, you should have your scorecard in front of you, and you've already put an X down by the team that chose the starting server. And now what you want to do is you turn it over, and the other team will say, I'm going to go over here, and they're pointing at a direction. So you have to have your scorecard, and knowing where you're going to stand, you're going to put an R or an L beside their name. So you know that that's being selected. So they're going to my right or they're going to my left. So again, the scorecard becomes a document that you can track every record that was happening. And I can't impress on you enough about how important this introduction and getting this right from this moment on, because if you make a mess here and you don't have it, you are in for trouble before you even get the game going. So it's so important to get this information correctly and to annotate it onto your scorecard.